poverty. Oh, oh, wake up all the teachers, time to teach your ways. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. They're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. Just the very best they can. Well, yeah, it's all better if we just let it be. Na, 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 na. Well, yeah, it's all better. Gotta change it just the way it is. Make up all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and who catch all the hair. They don't have so very long before their judgment day. But won't you make them happy before they pass away? I'm just real done to the man. I know we can do it if we all live the hand. Only thing we have to do, put it in our mind. Sure things will work out. They do it every time. Oh, yeah. Just when I lost my language. Yeah. Well, that's- Yeah. In a minute, I can see. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, one. So two in the front and two in the back.
Good day, now. Good day, this is Hank Sanders and Ray and Jason Judson Donner and Jamal Sanders. And this is the SOS connection. And we are just so appreciative that you have joined us for this moment. And we are, I believe that um, Martha Morgan will be joining us also.
I am here.
Oh,
I can say you. You may not say me, but I am here.
okay. And Karen Jones here. We're just thankful. This SOS connection is a special connection because we have all of us are so different, each in our own way, and yet we are connecting across those differences. And this SOS connection, our basic theme is every issue is a voting issue. Yes. Let's say it again. Every issue is
The voting is
But today we also want to give some attention to the war that's going on in Iran and how it affected us and all of that. So with that, we are getting started.
We still have to gonna get it right one day.
We ain't perfect. We ain't perfect.
Let me go back. And
When you said war, it's
there, there are two other people who are part of the SOS connection that will not be joining us today. One of them is John Zipper, and the other one is Frank Barragon. So, but we are now ready, and we're going to ask Faya to lead off because she not only brings intelligence, she brings energy.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I want to say is that we've been together a long time. You talked about our differences, and what's together is our common our love for freedom and justice, and our recognition that we are facing a government that is out of control.
yes.
Not only is Trump out of control, in my humble opinion, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I think the man is mentally ill. He's not just incompetent. But what bothers me more than his incompetency and the fact that he is able to start a war. One man has the ability to start a war that has literally killed thousands of people. And since we are not among the dead, right? Since only 13 Americans have been killed, which is 13 too many. Many of us don't recognize the impact of this war on our daily life.
You're right.
I mean, on my way over, I had to pay $78 just for gas. People say, what does that have to do with the war? It has a lot to do with the war. But before we get into the topic, I really want to thank y'all. because y'all have been faithful. You been growing up. That when we started working together, you were a little boy.
Yeah.
That beard and all that hair. So we've all grown, and I also want to thank Karen for making sure technically we're on the air. So the question is, how does this war affect us? I guess we can start by asking each person here, how has this war affected you? But I think it can be good before we sort of answer the question to get a kind of a review of how this war started and when it started.
I'm willing to do that. Um, this war started in deceit. It's deceit that started before this year. The Obama administration had worked out an agreement with Iran. And when Trump came into office, he tore up the agreement. So there was no agreement. That was the first time.
About what? What was the agreement about?
There was an agreement that dealt with various issues dealing with Iran. One, it dealt with how they would deal with nuclear arms. Two, it dealt with how they would deal with nuclear fission uh, for other matters. Three, it dealt with trade, and four, it dealt with some money that had been, uh, I don't remember the word, but there was a lot of Iran's money that had been tied up. So that's what it dealt with. And so when Trump became president this year, they had some negotiation. And after about a couple of weeks, while they were negotiating, the United States launched a war, and Israel joined in.
You mean while they were negotiating, they
While
launched
they
the
were
war?
while they were negotiating, like they started bombing Iran, and then that came to a conclusion, and they claimed that they had gotten rid of all of the potential for nuclear bombs and those kinds of things. So this year they started another negotiation. And while they were negotiating again, after it had only been a week or so, they not 2 weeks at the most, that they had been negotiating, and they started bombing Iran again. So that's why I say this war started in deceit.
And there's a lot of special interest involved in the progress of initiating the war regarding Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia was wanted America to have conflict with Iran, and a lot of the members of the Trump administration are profiting from Saudi and Arabian interests.
But the biggest player that really wanted a war in Iran was Israel.
Not
I mean,
to
they,
Hungary.
huh?
Not to
I
Hungary.
can't pronounce the man's name, and I always feel bad about
Call
it.
him Bibi. That's what they
What do you call it?
Bibi.
That's the good way. But he really manipulated Trump to this war. I can't imagine, y'all. This is part I'm making up, but I can imagine him saying, "Mr. Trump, you're the best president that the country has ever had, and we like your hairstyle. We like the way you walk. All you have to do is to brag on the man and get him to. You can get him to do just about anything."
Well, that's the last thing you gotta like about Trump is his hairstyle.
The brag on- I'm being a little facetious. But the truth is, every president, even President Bush, tried to get the United States to start a war with Iran. Obama refused, even Bush refused. So I want to ask the question: why do you think that Trump finally started the war? What do you think he finally said to trigger this war?
It's war profiteering to me, because if the manipulators were watching the stock market, every time he would mention war, the stocks would move. And so they knew this was about oil. The main part of this is war profiteering, oil, and Congress had started noticing when issues come up, how the stock market plays on issues. So they created a bill, I believe, but they're not, it's no teeth in anything our Congress is doing because they're not holding Trump to the fire. So when he started talking war and negotiations, and then when Netanyahu says something, it it fluctuates the stock market. So this is
What they didn't count on
mhm,
is the straight. They
yes.
didn't count. They did not think it through, nor did he contact the allies in NATO. Now, they did not realize that 20% of the oil in the world comes from the strait. And where's the strait?
Yeah, you sent JD Vance to go negotiate, and Vance can barely talk to most of the electorate in America. I mean, and let alone negotiate with a fortified, foreign adversary. That really makes me question who Donald Trump has in his cabinet and their decision making. He has Pete Hegseth, a former Fox News host, as the head of the military. They call it the Department of War now. But Pete Hegseth, if you see him in some of these news conferences, he looks lost. The way he's speaking, his rhetoric is so childlike that it's comedians. It's easy fodder for comedians. And so, what is he wasn't a high-ranking official in the military. What is his competency leading over?
Did you hear the press conference today that what Ted said?
I did.
He said he was in church when all this wisdom came to him about the war. He was in church. They're trying to connect all of this
To religion.
to religion.
And the religion is such a big topic.
All right. I see I'm going to have to come back down there next week if I ever get a word in.
Oh, I don't see you, Martha.
Put a hand up to say something before we move on with it. Just as I'm looking at the causes and the timing, I don't think you can overlook that. I mean, the Trump's relationship with the Epstein files and trying to do anything to divert attention from those files and his own sexual abuse of women and girls apart from Epstein. So I just want to mention that. We don't need to dwell on it, but
I just would like to add, power corrupts in the corrupt.
Mhm.
I forget the name of the man who said that, this Englishman years ago. And power has gone to his head. And whenever he went into Venezuela and was able to remove the leader was so easy, he thought he could do the same thing with Iran. And I'm sure that was what BB was telling him. I'm sure, I'm sure that's what's the senator from South Carolina?
Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham was telling him. And so he just misjudged the whole situation. And now what he has done, this war, is affecting people all over the whole world. And so a lot of folks who might have been nice, thinking well with him, not bad about him, saying he's crazy and he doesn't know what he's doing.
Did you think that Congress had some involvement with Trump's decision in terms of starting the war?
Some of his affiliates, I do believe that it's war profiteering, like with everything else. If you look at the companies associated with some of Congress, and his children and in-laws, Jared Kushner,
all of them.
So all of them have ties with BB.
They
Not
also
the
have ties with various
companies.
manufactured war products.
The Senate just yesterday tried to, the Democrats on the Senate tried to bring forth for the fourth time a war resolution to properly, because that's the levers of power. I believe that Trump is using to engage in this war a 9/11 doctrine to start the war. Martha can say something about that. Yeah, it sounds like she wants to speak.
Jump right on in, Martha.
well, I missed that. I'm sorry. I was looking to see if this is
I don't understand.
See if it was coming up on Facebook yet. So on my phone, a
Oh, okay.
technical error there. What was the question?
Well, let's go back to the basics. You're not supposed to start a war without Congress.
Mhm.
Right.
That's what it starts with. That's why I didn't even see the necessity for another law, because there's already a law on the books that says you cannot start a war. That's why he called this an exception. Is that why he called it?
He's not as
What
dumb.
is the word he used? A dalliance or not that something? It was like just a
He knows he's
scrimmage.
A scrimmage.
scrimmage. Yes.
Scrimmage, yeah. But
Ma'am.
you know, I think this points out not just we can't put all the blame on him, but Lord knows how anybody can think he's still really even in touch mentally. But Congress has let him do
Allowed him.
this. They have the power to stop most of what he's doing, and they just let him go on. That's what I can't understand.
How could they stop him though? I mean,
But
he's a town.
They can impeach him.
They have ties with these companies.
25th Amendment now, I think it's
25th Amendment, yeah, they just filed it this morning or yesterday or something.
But it's you don't worry so much about Trump as much as those who uphold him.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at those who upholding him, they are more, in my opinion, guilty than he is. We know he's
I disagree with that.
I think
They all guilty.
yeah,
Yeah, but he's the president.
he's the
He has a
president.
duty and a responsibility.
But we know
Many
he's
of these
crazy.
Other people don't have. Yeah.
So we can't deal with a crazy.
But Karen, I agree with you this whole angle on this. The reason why this man is so powerful is because 20% of black men voted for him, 48% of Hispanics voted for him. 80% of Republicans voted for him. There are a lot of crazy people.
Who
Many of
still
them-
believe
But
in
the
this
fact that
man.
so many people follow a maniac, a crazy man, that's what bothers me.
Like, I think that he's lost a lot of his non common vote. There's voters that vote more commonly and voters who vote less commonly. He gained there was a low turnout in the last election, and he gained a lot of non-common voters. And right now, I think who he's playing to, he's not playing to the broad because he lost a lot of Latinos. And he's playing to white evangelical right leaning.
But he messed with Jesus. Now he done messed with Allah. He done messed.
a Pope. He's not a state.
So he's lost Catholic.
How many has he lost? Come on, y'all. He's still scoring pretty high. His numbers have, considering the man dressed up in a robe with a halo over his head, touching a man claiming he healed him. And that should have taken him down to the 10%. He's still scoring in the 30%.
You could have took him -10 5 rows.
Negative, right? Negative 10.
I grew up in the evangelical setting. My grandparents were heavily involved. I went to a church called Evangel, and he as a young man, and those people will never leave him.
Really?
Yeah, and I think Senator Hank said something along with his expertise and experiences. There's some people that I mean, no matter what he does,
Explain why. Tell us.
Yeah, because I don't understand the event.
Make us understand why they'll never leave him.
Well,
They call him the second coming today. You know that.
it's a little bit. There's a little bit about
Second coming, but he's the devil though.
the Protestant and Presbyterian belief system that I researched for this podcast. There's a little bit about that's in the makeup of our nation. That was broader, but especially concentrated in the South that I would like to share later. But those people, they believe in the falsehoods of they believe that John Adams is established that the nation is a Christian nation, and they believe that Trump is the sovereign hand of God, and that the military does the military acts on behind God's sovereign will, and that they believe stuff like that.
Well, I need to take out a lot of straight jack.
Why do they believe, what's the
What's
nation?
the Bible? What's they
It's
coming
a
from?
connection to power. And it's historic. It's their connection to the pastors will believe it. It's their connection to the capitalistic infrastructure.
There ain't no
What does it have to do with white supremacy?
Well, I think that we leaving out of there. A lot of it is about race. And when he had a way of appealing to this white supremacy tendencies in the country. And so and that's just so powerful because it's been from before this country was created. White supremacy was a powerful force with dealing with Native Americans. White supremacy was a powerful force dealing with Africans in slavery. White supremacy has been such a powerful force, and he knew how to frame it and use it. And so, when that white supremacy is there, you can expect some people gonna line up behind it every time.
Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah.
With the people you grew up with who still will support a rapist, a person who was raped
raped
many women, including maybe a
15-year-old.
14-year-old?
Well, there is a condition, and this is more about what the war does. And I think to Americans who are mostly protected, who are protected, besides things like 9/11 and Pearl Harbor, there's Americans have lived a protected life. And the foundations of Americans and their complacency towards violence, like the bombing of a schoolgirl, a girls' school, there's little to no outrage in the South, especially, and that comes from and you have to ask yourself the question: why are Americans so complacent with violence, and why do they? It's in it.
And do a little bit of research, and give me 30 seconds here. John Calvin was a French lawyer turned theologian who contributed to the Protestant
of the 16th century, and Calvin's theological teachings defined Calvinism. And here's the interesting part about Calvinism. Calvinism teaches that God foreknew our fate by electing some to salvation and predestines others to the fate of damnation. Calvinists influenced the development of capitalistic society like America, or government, education, and ethics. John Madison was a Calvinist. Calvinists have a particularly strong influence in the South regarding predestination. That's the moral boundary, the moral basis of the Confederacy, saying that Africans were not predestined to be saved by grace. So I think that in our society and who we really are, and this reflects the American populace, is that we see ourselves as saved people, and as people who are from the Middle East, from where they're from and what they believe and how we look. We almost see as if they are predestined to a fate of damnation. And that's why we're so tolerant to a lot of violence that happens around the world.
But you grew up in that environment. What made you break from it?
Yeah, good point.
Well, I don't know. That's a really good question.
And every good question deserves a
Yeah. I think there are some that break from it, but I think a lot of people are misled by that.
What made you break from it?
I believe that I believed in Black people, and when I was young, I thought the only good thing about Montgomery and Selma in the South was the civil rights movement. So a lot of my foundational belief system, my fundamental belief system, was started at that kind of and I have Black family members, and so and some have broken and some have not. I think the one thing that holds that together, though, is the evangelical setting. They use Black people as kind of like a nuance and face of the church and promotion sometimes, which is historical. But that keeps up to white supremacy is the use of and by saying they only see color, they don't see color.
And that when somebody says that, that's the most vile thing you could say to me. I have relatives say, we didn't grow up saying, "Who house you were raised in? Like grandmama."
So
That's why you look at the rainbow and it's the color. Yeah.
You see color. Everybody sees color.
It's almost like something's wrong if you see the color black or brown or red.
And if someone is black, it's like, or white or Hispanic, it's like they come from legend. It's like that is history. They have a story. They come from legend of how we all got here. So it is, the people define history through, but we are actually living history.
Yeah.
I want to bring us to the issue, every issue. So all these things we're saying, we have a very important election. We have a primary in Alabama on May 19th. We have a nationwide elections in November. How is this issue of war? How is this a voting issue? I mean, I think the answer is apparent. I'd like to hear from various opinions.
I think that it's based on who you vote for, the way how they describe their public policies in terms of how they're going to implement it reflects what the landscape will be politically speaking, as particularly as it will relate to war. And I think that we really need to be careful in terms of looking at these candidates who we want to vote for to put in public office to establish some sort of policy that would minimize war to a point where it's not used for excessive uses
How this war right now is impacting the average citizen right now as we speak.
gas price.
Yes. What else?
For the food prices.
And Trump get on your nerves every time you
Stress, right, the news, watching people get killed every day. It's
Martha, I didn't hear you.
I said stress and horror at what we're seeing on TV and people being killed. And it's, I'm not saying the others aren't, the gas prices and all too, but I was just adding that.
I want to talk a little bit about fertilizer. How is this war affecting fertilizer dealing with oil? What does oil have to do with fertilizer, y'all? Y'all not farmers. Explain to the people. How's that?
I'm a resident farmer.
Let me help you a little bit with that. From some of the nitric gas, something about it. Whenever you are dealing with oil and gas and stuff, that nitric gas, by the time they process it, they find a way to make it into fertilizer. And so they make a lot of it in this, over in what they call the Middle East. And so while it may be 20% of the oil that's impacted, up to 30% of the fertilizer is impacted. And so when they do that, then the price of fertilizer go up. It also means that a lot of people don't get fertilizer in time to have the maximum crop. So all of the food ends up going up.
And shipping
as well as
Shipping cost goes up. What about medical care?
medical, because helium. People forget helium. Helium helps with the respiratory. A lot of surgeries can't be performed if we don't have helium because of how they use helium with the MRI machines, liquid helium, the respiratory therapy, laparoscopy, and even when y'all want simple balloons for parties. But for me, the medical issue of getting helium here, people are talking about how important helium is and where it comes from. All of those natural nitrogen, all of the natural carbon, minerals and oils are over there, and we're overlooking that. I think Congress needs to speak on it. Because if you don't have helium, you can't save lives. And then Trump said we had a surplus of oil. So if we go to war, gas wouldn't go up. He would release our reserves, and he hasn't done that yet. So the constant lies from Trump is what affects me.
Well, he just decided today, I think it's today, to send another 10,000 people into Iran. How is that gonna affect people?
I want to. Trump said, we can't do Medicaid, we can't do Medicare, we can't do daycare, child care. We can't do those things because we now need money for war. So the war going to adversely affect every one of us because Fire is old enough for Medicare.
I'll to that area. Even though there's been a blockade, and let's talk about what does that blockade mean. To me, it doesn't make sense because if that means no ship is allowed to go in, I think they've stopped. I think 13 got through. So how does this blockade impact? And what does it say when he says we're in negotiations now? Even Lebanon and Israel, they say, are going to begin talks.
That's actually a U.S. pocketbook too, as well. Some of those products that on those ships that connected to the blockade, is dealing with the U.S.
Right now, I'm talking about human life. Human life. The price that we're going to play in human life. If, in fact, he's asking now that Iran promises never to pursue a nuclear weapon. The deal that Obama made was a never deal. I think it was like 10 or 20 years. Mm-hmm. So 15 years. So I'm asking each of you, if in fact the blockade doesn't follow through on the plan to send troops on the ground, what impact is that going to have on all of us?
For me, I have nephews and great nephews who are the age, and some of them are in the military. So if Barron, who just turned 20, could go to war, I'd be okay with it. Because his family would feel what we feel.
Barron is Trump's son.
Barron Trump. Mm-hmm. He just turned 20. Mm-hmm. So did he sign up for selective service?
I think they made it automatic. Didn't they?
As of December, after the vote. And they're going to make all males are going to be automatically registered for the draft, I think. I guess 18-year old. So there's going to be boots on the ground. But that picture that he posted of himself as now he says a doctor, but dressed as Jesus healing. If you look at it, he's healing, it's a war setting, and soldiers are going up into heaven behind him. I think he's saying that, this will be a holy war. You're dying for me. I'll give you what comfort I can, but you're going on up into heaven because you are fighting a holy war, I guess. Isn't that that's what it said to me looking at it. And
Mark, in the clouds, though.
What's in the clouds?
And the clouds was something clearly looked like Lucifer, a beautiful.
Yeah.
It looked like Lucifer.
Yeah, that middle one, I couldn't figure that one out. But there were bombers up there. I mean, there were soldiers being levitated. It was, I don't know. It's a scary mess. But could I ask one question, and let's check on the time and see if when we want to switch over. And this will very much go into our theme of voting. Every issue is a voting rights issue. And just as we've clearly been showing that for the war, y'all had asked me to prepare a short thing just since elections are coming up on what's been going on here in Alabama in terms of the legislature and what the legislature did this last session that ended last week. So I just wanted to remind you that I am ready to do that when y'all want to turn to that.
Just before you start that,
Uh-huh.
I have secondhand experience. I started to say firsthand experience with war. I have a brother who died in Vietnam from a war that we didn't have any business involved in. And it affected my mother. It affected all of us, but it affected my mother so greatly until she refused to believe that he was dead, and until the last biters came out of Vietnam, because the Marines said you couldn't open the casket because his body was shot up so bad, and so it had a very profound impact on my mother. It had a very profound impact on me. It had a very profound impact on my family. So I don't any family only lost 13. That's 13 too many.
Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it. Moms, dads, our graduation is in next month. I would encourage you not to, or to discourage your children from joining the armed forces at this time. Even though we've had some very prominent Congress people to come up and say, look, you do not have to obey an unlawful order.
Right.
But I think if a war is going on, whether it's unjust or not, you disobey that order, you're gonna suffer a consequence. So I think the best thing to do is to encourage your children not to join any branch of the armed services at this time. That's what I would
What
suggest.
about war crimes? Trump has engaged in an illegal war crime. Who's going to hold him accountable um, in the continuous war crimes that he's committing?
Karen, that's why this election is so important. If
Yeah.
the press could take over the Senate and the House in great numbers, and there have been signs that it's possible of the elections that have been held, the only way to find him, to impeach him, he's been impeached twice. But it requires 60% of the vote to punish him after he's been impeached. So I use this time to say we got to. What if the Senate? What if we can produce one senator from Alabama, U.S. senator? It would mean he could be impeached.
Well, I got well, another reason why I wanted to discourage people from going to the military. They don't give you benefits. There's still some people in the Vietnam cycle that don't get their benefits, and I just wanted to point that out.
Most of them people did.
Yeah. That adds.
So I guess we need to explain, I guess, to some people when they say that they're impeaching, and there is an impeachment, that means that that individual elected official must go. But it's a process I think people are not understanding and are getting frustrated with. But what's the impeachment going to do if he's still going to be there?
Well, see, the House impeaches you, and then you have to have a trial in the Senate. But the problem is that to remove them from the Senate. So impeaching sends a message, but it doesn't remove anybody.
So
It's sort of like a prosecution, and then you've got to be convicted. I mean, well, an indictment, and then, but you still have to be convicted. Although that's very rough analogy, I guess, Hank, right?
Takes 2/3 of the 100 members in.
So another to get rid of people, you have a Democrat and Republican who have been accused of terrible sex crimes. They have been pressured into so enough put enough pressure on Trump, but
The voters elected Trump. He was on tape talking about grabbing women.
And he's been tried for sexual assault. Some say the R word, of Eugene Carroll.
Yeah.
and she got an $84,000 verdict.
84
million.
Yeah,
Well, whatever happened to the 15-year-old?
that was the allegations from the Epstein file, the 13-year-old. Yeah, she was 13. So that was alleged in the Epstein files, and
So y'all saying the only way to get rid of Trump, every effort to kill him has failed, and I'm not for violence. If the man go in a coma for 20 years, that would be all right. But not to kill him. But it's important that voters realize that we'll probably never get to that 25% that you're talking about. But what about those people who voted for him? And what about the people who never vote? Let's talk about briefly, do we have time for this?
If we wanted to get that report from.
No, I think that's a conversation for another day. Next time, I would like to talk about why is it people don't vote and what can we do to motivate them to vote? Not that 30% that you're talking about that are so embedded with them. They're like a cult, right?
Yes.
oh, yeah.
They're like a cult. So Martha, maybe it's time to hear from
Yeah. And maybe what I say will give some background then for us to talk about that. Because my report, as I went back and reviewed what other groups have said and all about this session of the 2026 session of the Alabama legislature, in some ways, there was some good legislation. I think you would have to count it as what I'm going to report on is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly is that which is bad, but at least we were able to kill it or hold it off for another year, which a lot of times that's, as Senator Sanders would know, that's about as much as progressive groups have been able to do in the legislature since it's become a super majority conservative body. But this year there were, I think part of it is that, so if you remember, SOS was there for the very first day of the session on the steps. Faith in Action was there that day. Other numerous, Alabama Rise, Appleseed, ACLU, teachers, educators, so many people came to the legislature this year. And so it's the maxims we've talked about is, and it shows this, every issue is a voting rights issue. And to point that out, Fire, when we were saying that the first time, even dying, some y'all said, well, damn if they didn't add a fee to funeral services this year just to prove that. So even dying is a voting rights issue. But the point then that we've been stressing, in addition to that, every issue is a voting rights issue, but voting alone is not enough. You have got to hold them accountable.
Right.
You've got to go down and call, or go down if you can, call, write, join protests and rallies for the issues you care about. And let me just quickly say a few things, the good things that happened, and we'll see if there's too much, we can come back to this next time too, perhaps. But what I have viewed as the good things that passed this time, there were, on the issues of crime and criminal justice system, I guess you would say, the legislature passed a law requiring that people applying for parole from prison be allowed to attend their own hearing, at least virtually. Now, the other side of that is how outrageous it is that until now, you have not even had any right to appear even virtually or by phone or anything at your own parole hearing. The other thing related to parole hearings, which is that they're going to now require the parole hearing board to take account of whatever education or work or things you did while you were in prison. They didn't have to look at any of that. So those are two very positive things. Another one that I view as positive, and many of the people that have been working on prison conditions, that have been working on these issues, also the communities, we're also intertwined. The victims of crime have been terribly hurt, and they got, some of the groups working with them this year got together and tried to see what might be done to help them. And what they resulted in, the positive legislation at least, and more may result, but was they passed a law extending the right to apply for victims' compensation from 1 year to 2 years. Because a lot of people don't, to be able to get everything together and it be timely to do it in 1 year, they said it's so hard. So they now passed that. So that's three. A fourth one that I would hold up, and I'm not saying these are the only ones, but they also passed a positive voting rights law, at least with respect to the votes of formerly incarcerated people. And there had earlier been some work by Reverend Glasgow and all of us in these organizations working together on voting rights for incarcerated and formerly incarcerated. And this is a law that I will sort of streamline or simplify or clarify, might be the best word, the rights in that area. To turn very quickly to the bad, again, I've got about 3 or 4 I'll highlight. The bad, and again, some might disagree with some of this. We talked about, I think, our first thing, the push to say that you can't buy candy or soft drinks, sugary soft drinks with SNAP benefits, and how that really looked like it was just being done to punish and stigmatize people that had to rely on SNAP to feed their families, because they weren't doing it for everybody. Of course, they named it, and I think yesterday the Governor Ivey proudly signed it as some kind of the Health Improvement Act of Alabama. It's just crazy how they can name things just the opposite of what the actual motivations are. But that did pass. So SNAP benefits will no longer be able to be used for those purchases.
But may I say something?
Yes, yeah.
It has to also, because SNAP benefits come USDA, so there is a little hope that if they sign a waiver and then it goes a federal waiver, then I think still Congress must approve it because it comes from the USDA.
Yes, thank you, Karen. That's one of the things. It doesn't immediately go into effect. It's really just a bill. States have to ask for a waiver to be able to cut off these purchases. And about 20 states have done so before. I don't know if they've all gotten them or what the record, but you're right, Karen, that's very important. It's not going to take effect immediately, and maybe even both a waiver and then there may be an appeal to Congress before it would take effect. But they did pass the law to at least start with the process. They also, another one was they passed that I view as very concerning from in our education system in terms of colleges and universities. They passed a bill to all colleges and universities at least have faculty senates, and they have passed a bill to say that they could only have advisory roles. Well, truth is, I don't think they've had much more than advisory roles ever. They certainly don't have governing power in my knowledge, but it also to really try to take away the concept of tenure by saying that tenured people still have to be reviewed and can be reviewed by the board of trustees. And so it's just a continuing chipping away of what we called academic freedom back when I was an active professor. So that was of concern to me. They also passed a bill I view bad in terms of they will not give in to teaching about real sex education in our schools. They want to now teach what they call allow you to teach about sexual risk avoidance. And of course, they mostly mean just say no, but I don't know exactly what else, but they specifically don't mean teaching people about contraceptive use. And so it's a horrible bill. Then
Martha, what about the bill dealing with elderly people and disabled people not being able to get help to vote absentee?
Right. That did not, well, this is that I have that over in a category. They have already, last year, they passed a bill that made it very bad in terms of what you're saying. And this year, this is one, I put this in the category of hopeful, but that may be too strong. Hopeful are the bills that we people, progressive people, actually tried to get through this year and didn't. But that does at least mean that there's some better hope each year, right, Senator Sanders? I mean, just like you can kill something for a few years sometime, but you also have to, if you've got something good you want to push, you frequently have to bring it. These parole issues people have been pushing for a long time. So I think it is Representative Clark brought up good voting rights bill that would address the bad one that they had passed. And it did get a hearing in the House Judiciary Committee, as I understand it, on the very last day of the session. And that's not much, but it's something. It's a positive step at least. And they, I'm trying to think what else. Yeah.
You can tell the people what the law is. I know it didn't pass, but what law is it they're trying to correct around?
Well, you may want to say, I'm not sure I remember all of it. It was the one that didn't want to, you can't help anybody. You can't give water or food to anybody. You can't, but it also had limits on who could help disabled people vote. And it, this would, I think the newer bill would at least broaden that category. It's not to say nobody can. So sometimes when we talk about how bad laws were, we make people think, and Karen, I was on the Zoom with your disability group and they were talking about how if you are disabled and need somebody to assist you at the polls, you can have someone. It can't be your employer. It can't be a union representative, but you can have someone help you in the polls. I think and Karen, correct me, and Faya, I think the bigger problem is the limits on so many people need to vote absentee because of their disabilities or other reasons. And they made that much riskier. Somebody else want to take over on that point?
I just want look like they indicted two people in county last couple of days dealing with absentee ballot. The former mayor of Fort Deposit and another person.
Yeah.
In Monroe County, they indicted two people dealing with absentee ballot. So
what did they claim people did that was illegal? I know
it was basic.
Go ahead.
I read the from Steve Marshall, basically signing the absentee ballot and voting it themselves. And if they were smart, Alabama notary law says it's not like other states. You can notarize your family or friends, if you want to. You can notarize your own thing if you want to. I don't do it as a notary. My own family or myself. So that's what they're saying that they
These people notarize ballots that they weren't supposed to notarize, but that is illegal. You don't think that's illegal to notarize a ballot when you're not a notary?
No, I think they were
They
notaries.
Yeah.
They were
They were
notaries.
notaries.
So that's what I'm saying. They can fight
Yeah.
it because our state law says,
Notaries, okay.
yeah,
I'm interested in the letter grade for the Alabama legislature.
say it again.
A letter grade for the Alabama legislature.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't know. I'm no longer teaching. And part of why I didn't teach was I didn't like the letter grade system they forced me to. So I would say, I was feeling at least we had a more positive things than many sessions. But then I went over and read something that the other party had written about how they achieved at least some success on almost anything they wanted. But of course, their successes, some were tiny, and some of our successes are, we didn't get everything we wanted. So I don't know how, Senator Sanders, you sat there and watched it a lot more. What grade would you give this year's?
Yeah, let me do our comments. Let's give about it a few seconds to say that final word.
We are at the end, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that war is always justified, but in no case, I think that in past governments that we had used it for justifiable means, and they need to change.
Thank you, Justin.
Today, Martin Luther King penned his letter to the Birmingham jail. That influenced the way that we see our world and how lawyers and lawmakers and people can engage in civil disobedience. And it's a part of our modern day philosophy of patriotism, and so we should continue to do that and honor his legacy.
Okay, Karen.
I think war, I'm for peace, but always prepared for war. I just leave.
All right, Bob.
Oh, I took a lot of time, so I'll just use my minute to lead us in every issue is a voting rights issue. And voting alone is not enough, though.
Yeah.
I would add. That'll be my last words.
Thank you, Fire.
I find confident in the Old Testament, the book of Isaiah, that says that God promises there will be peace, and that the day will come when we'll lay down our swords and our guns for plowshares to cultivate food and peace instead of war.
We just
thank you
very much. We appreciate it, and we'll see you on the first
Thursday
Thursday
of May.
It's the third Thursday. So the first Thursday of May at 12 noon.
Yeah. Thank you all so much.
Somebody just gave a question. I didn't know this children can be charged with terrorism. I didn't know that we would deal with that last. I just got a question.
What was the question?
Is that true?
What?
Children can be charged with terrorism in Alabama?
Yes.
Oh, we got it.
Domestic terrorism. The threats, the bomb threats and things of that nature. Yes, they can.
Oh, wow.
Yes. No, that's a good thing to make them stop playing.
I know.